And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It's the Thursday night, which means it is the Forever Sports Fan Forum. And I am joined by two faces who should be pretty familiar to you by now, unless you are new to the channel, in which case we're all pretty new. In which case, go and subscribe right now and make sure that you get to spend a lot of time with myself and my lovely guests tonight. We are joined by Riaan and Reza. And guys, how are we?
Very well, thanks, Steven. StevieP.
Yeah, StevieP, not too bad, brother. Not too bad. Been a good weekend.
You see this? You can tell the Lions won. We've got three very chuffed Lions supporters here. The smiles are out. The week's been good. We can actually hold our heads high for a little bit. Makes a nice change. I've got a bad.
I need to go iron my jersey. Eh?
You gotta go. I gotta go find mine. We're back in the covers and stuff. But yeah. So for anybody that's new to the show, basically what we're gonna be doing for the next sort of 45 minutes, we're gonna be chatting a bit of rugger. We're gonna be looking at some of the results last week. And some very interesting Six Nations results, and as well as some URC action. Very interesting URC action. And for me, at the moment, the team to talk about is both the Sharks and the Bulls in terms of whether they're going to be able to sort of get home safely through the season or whether they're going to be a couple of hiccups ahead. We're going to have a look at the Six Nations log, which is quite open, actually. Ireland right in front, but a chasing pack of three teams. And then we'll have a look at this weekend. We've got some local derbies in the URC, and very importantly, a World Cup star will be making his return to action. So all of that, and maybe even a little bit more over the next sort of 45 minutes. So before we do anything, please do smash the like on the video, subscribe, as I said, to the channel if you are new, and let's get into it. Right, chaps. I think the best place to start is probably let's start with Six Nations, seeing as it is a fellow week, so no Six Nations action this weekend. Much to Riaan's disappointment.
These people are lazy. I mean, who can't play like 3 games in a row? Why do we need 2 fellow weeks, man? That's just trying to earn a paycheck for doing nothing.
Well, assuming the question is, are the Welsh players being paid for these weeks, or do you think they're on like a week by week basis?
Yeah, definitely. If you're on sabbatical there, I'm sure.
Unpaid leave.
Yeah, so we are in the fairly. So there's no Six Nations action this weekend. It'll resume next weekend, and then there'll be back-to-back action as we sort of wrap that up. But yeah, let's start with what we saw last week. And first up, we had Italy versus Ireland. Ireland with a bit of a changed side. No Johnny Sexton, amongst quite a few other players that were rested. So an opportunity for a couple of players. And Riaan, I'll go to you first because I did watch your review, so I do know that you watched some snippets. But what was your sort of take on that Italy-Ireland game, both in the Ireland sort of rotated side, but also an Italian side which fought quite hard?
Yeah, it was a great game. I thought Italy would give them a pretty good game. I didn't think they would hang in there as well as they did. I really thought Ireland would pull away by the second half, and it just didn't happen, which is starting to become a nice little feature of this Italian side. They are staying in games and refusing to go away, which I think is it's very good to see this for a team that is so young. They're all low 20s, and I can only hope it keeps going like this. As long as they don't beat us next, more power to them.
Yeah, been there, done that, haven't we?
Yeah, no. It's just, we're now at the stage of just like ticking off teams who are going to upset us. But were you watching the Six Nations? Watch some Italy Ireland, or which of the games did you check out?
Yeah, so I checked a bit of the highlights out, and just to echo Riaan's points there, I really think that the idea of the total blowout between the top and let's call them bottom nations is getting really a lot smaller. So you're not going to see those blowout scores where there's 20 plus, 30 plus, 40 plus scores anymore that we were used to seeing. And it's fantastic to see for the Six Nations as a model that they aren't really just 3 teams competing. And I think definitely in time, Italy, if they keep growing like they are, they'll definitely be competitive soon. And some really strong individual performances as well. I like that number 8. I can't really pronounce his surname correctly. It's like
Lorenzo, my boy.
Yeah. What a huge performance from him. Something like over 100 meters in carries, 15 tackles, 7 line breaks, some really ridiculous stats that we haven't seen in a while from anyone in an Italy shirt. So definitely some positives there, and I think Italy would have expected to win. Italy probably expected to lose that game, so in the end, not a terrible result for anyone there.
Yeah, so I think, and look, I mean, as I said, I think, everybody's sort of very quick to sort of say, oh, but it was Ireland's rotated side or whatever. At the end of the day, it's still Ireland. They're still, I mean,
No such thing.
no, exactly. They're the number one side in the
No.
world, and the number one side in the world for good reason. They've got the depth. I mean, shame they had to make do with having Ross Byrne, who's like the URC. Just like it's this competition. He just bangs up points here. While Johnny decides to play the odd game in there and there. He's guiding Leinster to various title stuff to get, and they still have plenty of. I mean, the B team where British and Irish Lion, Jack Conan comes in at 8 and Caleb Dorish just shifts to the flank. That's your B team type sort of thing. And Ian Henderson as well.
Ryan was there.
Ian Henderson as well, British and Irish Lion. He has to come into the side. Shame. Like it was really tough going for those Irish players. I don't know how they coped.
Really sad.
But also, I mean, that game and maybe a large reflection. How exciting is sort of the rugby order at the moment? And we'll go to you first here, just in terms of the fact that you talk about those sort of blowout scores. I mean, Italy are at this stage. I think they're still ranked like 11th. I don't know if they're still in the top 10 at the moment, and yet there wasn't much between them and one. And we're now seeing, for example, like a Georgia push. But I think how exciting is it looking at all the various teams and knowing that there isn't a lot between the best team in the world and maybe the 10th best team in the world at the moment.
It's so exciting, and I think especially for the Northern Hemisphere that illusion around the Southern strength is kind of dissipating a little bit. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see again the kind of streak that New Zealand had sitting at number one for, I think it was maybe 2-3 years at a stretch at one point. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. I think there will be constant rotation in the rankings. There probably needs to be some revision of the rankings, but that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, for me personally, really exciting. I was not looking forward to watching end of year tours against Italy where we just blow them away. Well, in our case, as South Africans, we often would choke a couple of those, but besides the point. It's fantastic for rugby as a model, and I think that's I'm really looking forward to it. I like seeing teams like Japan compete. I like seeing Italy compete, and I hope that it's filtering down to the grassroots level in those countries. And I hope that, as we saw with the Women's World Cup in cricket, as soon as someone starts doing well, it translates into viewership, it translates into sponsors and all that kind of thing. And I hope that's happening in Italy. And around the world where these smaller minnow countries are starting to put up a good show.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of there not being too much between teams, Riaan, we have to talk about this Wales-England game, which in and amongst what has been, for me, one of my favourite Six Nations in a while, for how exciting the matches have been, how great some of the rugby have been, how cool it's been to see some teams have a go. A bit of a ball fest in that game.
Like I said earlier in the week, you could change their jerseys. You could have made it Wales versus Springboks or the British and Irish Lions versus Springboks. It looked like two teams who didn't want to lose. It wasn't two teams trying to win. I don't know what it is. When Wales plays and they're desperate, they're so good at the breakdown and nowhere else on the field. So you can see England, when they scored their tries, I think they scored 2 tries off, proper phase play, building up the back line. And that only happened twice in the game. Every third ruck, there's a man in there from Wales and they slow the ball down or they win a penalty. And you could just see Borthwick decided, no, this is too risky. We're going to put it in the air, play like the Tigers played, and just send your chasers up. Freddie Stewart, I mean, why wouldn't you use him?
Yeah.
And just keep Wales on their side of the half. They couldn't get out, and if it wasn't for an intercept, they would have been kept to 3 points. So basically, they just knew how to beat Wales, and they didn't care how boring it was. If you block all day for the win, that's what you do. And Borthwick is like that. He doesn't care about pizzazz; he cares about winning. I think that's what matters to England now is win. That's all they care about.
Look, I think that's a pretty good attitude to have in Test like this in general, to be honest. I think we get far, and the Springboks have always been the sort of unashamed team that say, you know what, as much as you want to chat anything about our style, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Brian O'Driscoll said, if he could have played one World Cup like the Springboks and won a World Cup, he would have done it every single day of the week. He said everybody would. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think maybe that's
I mean,
a good
we
hallmark.
can't sit here and judge and say, "Oh, that was such a boring game." I mean, we were looking in the mirror there.
Yeah.
You can't, you can't be telling people, "No, that was a crap game with 50 kicks in it." We do that every time we play Wales and sometimes even England.
Yeah, look, a Springbok Wales game is never particularly interesting, unfortunately. But yeah, it wasn't. I think that's the sad thing is just in terms of what we've seen from the Six Nations is that it just wasn't quite the same sort of quality.
Based on the rest of the games.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we have seen such good rugby throughout the competition. And I think the sad thing is, as well, as a lot of fans are saying, is that you look at those two teams, and they've definitely got the type of personnel to be able to play some pretty open-ended rugby. But at the same time as well, I think also if you look at, for example, England, they just could not afford to lose that game. Whilst you're looking at a Welsh side who are not going to compete. I mean, they're currently sitting without a single point in the log, which really does sort of sum up the off-field issues.
Yeah. That's what happens when you don't think you're going to be employed in 4 months' time. You don't put a lot of effort into your job.
No, 100%.
Their minds are elsewhere.
Riaan, I mean, I hear you. I hear you, but does that not also become a situation where you want to do your best to encourage the fact that you should be paid what you're asking for?
I don't know. When you hit,
really think anybody ever walks out onto a rugby field unmotivated? That's just my personal opinion.
Everyone goes on the field very motivated, I think. But Warburton has said it can be 2 to 3% off, and you lose a game. And I mean, if you're that 2 to 3% could be £100,000 of your salary being gone in a couple months' time. You just have to be off a little bit in international rugby. There's no place to hide, and I think that's just where they are. If you fall behind by 9 points, your head drops because you're in the. You start thinking about your off the field stuff, and I think that's kind of what's happening with him. England just want to win more because they have a new coach and they want to give him a good record. Where Wales, I don't see how they can dig themselves out of this hole unless they fix the boardroom.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a bit of a write with Wales, the Six Nations. Personally, I think if I'm Italy, I'm sitting there thinking, listen, that game against Wales is a very winnable game, and I think Italy will very much be eyeing that out as a chance to try to surprise a few players. And then let's talk about France versus Scotland, because that result, France beating Scotland 32 points to 21, actually means that there are now 3 teams who currently sit in the same amount of points. So Ireland currently out ahead, 15 points from a possible 15. Gone very well for them in the first 3 games. And then you've got Scotland, England, France, all tied on 10 points. Each side getting 2 bonus points. Currently on point difference, Scotland's actually in second with 23 points difference. England with a 21 points difference, and France with a 3 points difference. So Scotland currently now sort of sitting in that second place, and I think, to be honest, I'm really enjoying the Scottish side we're seeing, because it kind of reminds me of the Scottish side about 2 years ago, and not much has changed from a personnel and coach point of view, but just they're that side that when they turn it on, they can almost like flick a switch, and when they do flick that switch, they can compete with almost any team out there. Last year, I thought Scotland kind of lost that kind of touch, but this weekend they went behind quite early, and they were basically almost out of it at half time. They just saw a bit of a second half resurgence. Now we were talking about it a little bit before we came on air, but Riaan, Finn Russell, what a player he is at the moment.
I would pay just to watch him by himself. When he's happy, and I think he's also got the centers that he needs. It's what a game that guy plays. It's beautiful stuff.
Look, not to throw a spanner in the works, but just for the topic of discussion, I wonder, and we, like Steve said, we've actually been talking about Scotland for a couple of years now, and the style of play that they have, which is very kind of just almost touch rugby-ish, right? And while it's great to watch and it results in a couple of good matches, I personally, if we go back to the Borthwick chat and the Springbok chat, believe that your job is to win games consistently, in a consistent manner with the same game plan. And while Finn Russell is capable of changing a game by himself and producing moments of magic like he did with Hugh Jones, I have questions about the Scottish side and their approach to reaching that next level tier. Right now, I'd call them middle tier. And I don't know if they're just kind of comfortable being there, and whether surely they should be striving for more to be that top tier nation, and whether that means an adaptation in their game plan. Perhaps I don't know. Just as something to debate. I really do think that it might be costing them a little bit. I mean, look, Finn's capable of mistakes as well. Not just to put it on him. The whole team's playing in a certain manner. He chucked a loose one out, resulting in a try as well early on in the game. And yeah, I maybe it's just a South African in me, but I feel like the tried, tested, win your set pieces, make your gains, do all the basics right. Then you start earning the right to start playing with flamboyancy. That's personally my view. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I'd say they need a big boy. They need to find a Scottish qualified 7-foot South African in the pack. For me, that's what they're missing. They're missing one monster, France found a Paul Willemse, and all of a sudden they changed. Ian Henderson, James Riaan, they play that role for Ireland now. Just a big boy. Scotland have a very hard working pack. They get to breakdowns. They fast. They get around the field very good. I've checked. Scotland like to use their wingers to sometimes on first phase already. They get the ball to their winger from the opposite side of the field, especially Duan. He runs, gains as many meters as he can, cuts back in so that a flanker or a hooker or something can get to that ruck. Then they in behind on the first phase, and you've got Russell with quick ball, and then he decides what to do. Huey Pilato, crossfield kick back to Steyn, or take it up himself. Now that works until your pack is dead tired, and then the bigger boys from the other side can start running over you. I feel like they need someone to give them that penetration in midfield, and the pack is hardworking and fast, but it's not scary. It's not scary. So I want them to find.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'd take it a step further, actually, and just say, again, I'm bringing this back to Finn Russell, and I'm not a Finn Russell hater, please believe me on that, but what happens when you take Finn Russell out of that team? No, not at all, but what happens when you take Finn Russell out of that team? I mean, who do you replace him with? And it's the same problem that I had before with the Springboks, is we had a game plan centered around a 10, like Pollard. He got injured. We had to take him out. It took us months to find a game plan that worked with his backups. The Alton Yankees experiment was, let's be honest, a failure. Okay, and I worry that the same thing is going to happen to Scotland, and I hope that their game plan is being filtered down to adapt regardless of personnel.
That's Jaco van der Walt. Isn't he Scottish now?
Ex-Lions boy.
No, without Russell, they're probably nothing. But without Sexton, Ireland is also a lot less scarier. I think the only teams really in the world that can lose a 10 right now it's probably France and New Zealand, really. I don't think anyone else can. We
saw what Italy looked like when Garbizzi was back.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, all the teams build their game around the 10. Only France, if you lose Intermac, you've got Jalibert. And if you lose Jalibert, I think Dupont can play 10. He's played 10 before. So,
Dupont can play everywhere. He can stop down at 5'10" and he can do a job.
Yeah. So there's very few teams.
I love hearing you say French
names. Who, me
but,
or Riaan?
Riaan.
Yeah, I'm all aboard the Finn hype train. And look, I think at the end of the day, I think Scotland are a side that I don't think they can go route one. I don't think they can ever go toe to toe with the top sides from a physicality point of view. And I think maybe at this stage they're kind of sitting there saying, listen, if we are going to try and cause a few upsets, if we are going to try and compete at this stage, we kind of just need to throw caution to a wind to a certain degree and try and let our playmakers have a go. And I think we've seen that with the moving away from Eddie Price, for example, who can play a very tactical game, can slow things down, and they basically said, nah, stuff it, let's just play the ball around, see if we can get Darcy Graham, do a bit of nervous, shoot Hog into some space. Letu Pelotto and the Buggers. I mean, also Chris Harris being left out. He's a brilliant defensive centre. I think they've also said, at the end of the day, we're just going to go all out attack, and we will probably concede points, but we're backing ourselves to score points. So I'm going to move away from the Six Nations because we're almost already halfway in, and we haven't even mentioned the URC. But yeah, so at the moment, I think very interesting. Sort of that whole competition. As I said, those three in the chasing pack. If Ireland slip up once, then there will be a team that is ready to sort of bounce behind there. Let's talk about the URC, shall we? Sharks went down to Ulster, 24 points to 31. Lions beating the Glasgow Warriors, 35 points to 24. I don't think we can read too much into the Lions game, apart from the fact that it's back to winning ways. I do think for having Frankie Horn, 100%, and I do think having Frankie Horn back was a massive boost, and I think we're now starting to realize just how good he actually is. But let's start with the Sharks Ulster game, because I watched that, and to be perfectly honest, I've got some very, very big doubts about the Sharks squad at the moment, because yes, they're missing a lot of Springboks. Let's not take it away from them. I think they've almost got 9 to 10 players they could be missing. But they've invested so much. They've brought in so many, big name players. You still got Riaan van Rensburg, Francois Venter, Grant Williams is still there, Ntuka Tunu is still there. You're bringing in Vince Tuka, Percy Buthelezi, Dylan Richardson. We're talking about international quality players. It wasn't also the best Ulster side, and they just couldn't compete.
I don't know. They lost. Didn't Joe Mangalu leave them? He was their defensive coach, right?
No, he left the Bull. He's at the Sharks now.
He's there, but he's coaching like the Curry Cup team.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's still involved with the URC side, but yeah, he is supposed to take the Curry Cup side.
Yeah, I think he was involved with defense there, and then they upgraded him. You're going to run the Curry Cup side now. So I think they're missing a defensive coach, which shows. Leaking 31 points at home is no good. I didn't catch the match, but I saw Dwayne Vermeulen manhandling around.
No, I understand. It's not the players.
Yeah. I think it's a coaching issue. Like last year they got all these new players, and we said, okay, it's going to take time for them to bed in. And then this year they're losing coaches, so that's another year basically down the drain. You need to bed in the new guys. But yeah, they're not performing to what their wage bill is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think at this stage, they're almost at a risk of actually losing out. At this stage, there's a real possibility, because they're playing the Stormers this weekend, there's a real possibility that they could drop out of this top 8. Because they're currently sitting in 7th. They've got a 5-point cushion between themselves, Connacht, and Cardiff. If Connacht were to win with a bonus point this weekend, if Cardiff Rugby were to win with a bonus point this weekend, if Benetton, for example, were to win this weekend, and Sharks were to not get any points, all three of those sides would be right behind them. And if you look at the Sharks' games coming up, they've got obviously they've got the Stormers away this weekend, which is which is these days one of the hardest games in the tournament in the league actually to play. And they're playing against Scarlets, but Scarlets away. They then got Benetton at home, and this is the side that could be right behind them. And then their final match is actually against Munster. So they've not got. I mean, Scarlets, you should be back them to be able to beat them. Benetton could be a bit of a roll the dice depending on which Benetton side pitches up. But if it's also funny how pressure does things. If they were to slip up against Scarlets and find themselves outside the top 8, they've got 2 tough games to finish off here. And if they don't make top 8, then that's an absolute PR disaster for a franchise which has spent so much money and invested so much and decided they want to be a European elite club. They might not be in the European Champions Cup next season.
Imagine. That would be a bit rough.
It could be the Lions. It could be the Lions in the Challenge Cup.
I think their investors are certainly going to be concerned about this for sure.
Yeah. Especially with all that talk.
I personally was shocked. I don't really know how they let this one slip. Home ground advantage and a very decent team out there. Sure, a lot of moaning from the ranks of the public that they didn't have their full squad and so on, and why didn't they have everyone? And I'm just going, guys, but you are a provincial team that has known for a very long time that you are going to be without top tier players for long stretches of time. For whatever the case is, Springbok call-ups, injuries, rests, and all that kind of nonsense. You effectively should be operating at a level where your second-string team is the team that actually operates year-round and occasionally gets boosted by by Springboks. That's my personal opinion, because with the current rugby calendar, they hardly actually are ever around.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that if you look at Ulster, for example, they were missing, McCloskey, they were missing Ian Henderson, missing Rob Herring. There's nobody Burns. There was plenty of Ulster players missing as well. So it's for me, it's a very lazy excuse to just turn around and say
It's a dodgy excuse.
no, it's
dodgy
because they've got the same issues as well. And I think that we can't. They also the players they've got were good enough to win the day, and we said this many a time. And you can't rely on these Springboks players to bail you out all the time, because they're not always going to be available. And more to the point, they're not always going to be there. Sia Khaleesi's moving on at the end of the season. Lakanya Ham's already had a sabbatical, and they're going to have to be willing to let these players move, whether it's to Japan for a season, like a Marcel Coetzee deal, where the Bulls allowing him to go to Japan for a while, and that he can come back. It's going to be like that, and you can't just, whenever things go badly, just turn around and say, oh well, if we had our Springboks, because at the end of the day, you don't make that top 8. You can't be sitting there going, well, we should be in our Champions Cup because our Springboks would have gotten us there.
Yeah. No, it's funny. They dropped these weird games during the season. I don't understand it.
Even with their box, they've lost some strange games. They've had some good performances at times, but they have lost some very strange games. I mean, and you look at their record: 14 games, 8 wins, 6 losses. It doesn't get much more inconsistent than that. The only team that is more inconsistent than that is Connacht, who are literally 14 games, 7 wins, 7 losses. But in the Lions,
can we just talk for 1 second about that flipping handoff?
Great community on Roland van Rensburg.
Yo, that man, when he comes back to South Africa to play against his countrymen. Oof.
So this is my next sort of. Actually, I wanted to ask this question: is Dwayne Vermeulen still number 8? If we've got, based on what we've seen with Ulster, because he's been really good again this season, World Cup final tomorrow against New Zealand, are you playing Dwayne Vermeulen or are you playing Jasper Wiese?
Dwayne. I'm playing Dwayne. The man's been in a World Cup final. He's been the man of the match in a World Cup final. I'm playing Dwayne.
Yeah,
even if it's 40 minutes, he's on the field for me. Catch that ball on kick returns and run it back at them as hard as you can. And he's the defensive captain of the team.
The man's churning up.
Yeah.
And good to see, because I mean, it was amazing.
He's actually aging backwards.
No, but it's amazing how quickly the South African public was willing to throw him away.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, no. So during the British and Irish Lions series, we didn't have Dwayne. We kind of forgot about him. Then last year, he was kind of injured, and they're like, and Jasper Wiese goes and has 2 couple of games. We're like, oh, cool. So Dwayne's gone. Dwayne's finished. Dwayne is not finished. I mean, I'm watching the guy in an Ulster shirt, and that guy. I mean, he's absolutely everywhere. He's still phenomenal at the breakdown. He's still getting around the park. He's still, physicality's next to none. I think if we manage him well, he's still.
Look, I like Jasper. And I think he had some really good performances recently in a Bok jersey, and I think he's a worthy successor to the crown. But there was, like you said, there was a lot of chatter about every 8 under the sun after the World Cup, Evan Roos included. I just personally have not seen the level of consistency in any of their performances to dethrone old Dwayne.
Yeah, 100%. As you said, heir to the throne, but the throne's still occupied. So you heard it here first. The First Sports panel is back to Dwayne Vermeulen right now, moving forward. In terms of moving forward, 2 matches this weekend. The Lions coming off a win against Glasgow. They're up against the Bulls. Now, if I'm a Lions side, I'm looking at that Bulls side saying, listen, we know pound for pound they're a better side, but this Bulls side's under pressure. This Bulls side has been losing games like it's going out of fashion lately. They were 2nd or 3rd not so long ago, and they're sitting down in 6th, 1 point ahead of the Sharks, who were talking about not also making Champions Cup. It's kind of imploding there. And is there a chance, do you think, for a Lions upset this weekend? Anyone backing it?
I wish I could, but no. We're playing against all the Lions from the 2016 to 17 team there. I don't see us going over there and winning. With Frank Horn, it'll be closer than it's been. But I don't see us beating them in Pretoria. They lost against Stormers last, right? So they would have been sitting angrily hatching their plans in Pretoria for the last 2 weeks. So maybe the Lions can catch them a bit cold because they've had a game now this past weekend. to build up some cohesion, but I can't see us taking on that pack. Maybe in the scrum, but around the park, I unfortunately don't see the Lions winning this one. Hopefully, it's closer than it's been recently.
And Reza, are you brave enough to say you do see it, or you could see it, or you might see it?
Yeah, look, I called a Glasgow loss last weekend. So I'm going to say it's a Bulls win this weekend and hope that the curse continues.
All right, fair enough. Did you call it Glasgow loss, or did you call it Glasgow win?
I called a Glasgow win last weekend, yeah.
Okay.
So glad I didn't put any money down, but yeah.
Okay, so
I apologize for the bid on my suggestion.
No, well, unfortunately, our betting person could be here tonight. He will be joining us from next week, and then we'll be able to get you some genuine betting advice. You don't have to listen to Reese's terrible predictions. You can get some genuine betting advice. And if you are looking to put some bets and put some stuff down, you can go and get yourself a BetCozo account. They are helping us power all the rugby sheet and stuff like that. And yeah, link in the description if you want to go sign up for BetCozo. We'll be doing some competitions over the next couple of weeks so that you guys can win all the free bets in the world and go and make yourself some billions. And when you do, please come and support the channel, send a super sticker, join a members or something, give us a donation, send us to, help us pay for some security so we can all go to Ellis Park together and eat, drink, and be merry.
Don't be afraid. Don't be scared.
No, I got told on Twitter quite blatantly that obviously,
I saw that.
Obviously I'm from Cape Town and that you've got to view going to Ellis Park as being part of the African experience and African city experience. And I didn't realize that putting yourself in genuine danger is just part of the experience. But a discussion for another day. We're not going to go down the Ellis Park debate. But Sharks versus Stormers. Now this is going to be an interesting one because if those who haven't been following this week have not seen, there is a potential protest apparently planned. SA Rugby actually had to release a statement today to remind everybody why the administration is currently happening within Western Province Rugby Football Union because of what Old Zalt Maria and Co did. But apparently a couple of members of that sort of faction are trying to galvanize a protest this weekend against SA Rugby, saying that they replaced one dictator with another. Now, at the end of the day, I don't think Stormers fans are going to be protesting particularly hard. It's difficult to protest when you're currently the league champions. But could a little bit of outside noise maybe play into the Stormers' performances and could the Sharks, who are so desperate for a victory, is anybody backing the Sharks to cause an upset? Or are we also nah, it's not happening?
No chance.
If
there's 5 guys at this protest, I'd be surprised. No, you're not going to get a bunch of happy fans to turn around and say, fire everyone and bring back Zalt Marie. Yeah. There's no chance. They're going to be like, Newlands, what's that?
Yeah. Look, as South Africans, we our focus for protest energy is elsewhere, and it's not gonna change anything. I think they will run them tight, but Stormers win for sure.
Right, so there you go. So the panel over here backing a win for the Bulls. Well, actually, bugger you guys. I'm going for a win for the Lions. I'm backing my boys.
I hope you're right.
I'm going to be live on YouTube on Saturday afternoon. I might even put my Lions shirt on, the lucky Lions shirt, Frankie Horn hat trick. You heard it here first. Watch and learn. It's about to be an event.
That man is a carbon copy of Whiteley. I see him play and I can't understand. Is Whiteley back in Joburg? The man plays exactly like
scrum cap and everything. All he needs to do is grow out his hair a bit and pull the socks down when he runs, and then we're back to the good old days. I still think that we could potentially. You know, for me, it'll be a Lions thing to go beat the Bulls, and we'll lose the next 3 quite easily. But
it'll be a battle of the Ruans again. There's the Ruans in the Bulls team as well. So whoever's got the most Ruans, they win.
There's Ruans. They've got the most Ruans because Ruan Dreyers received a 3-week ban. So they might have Ruan Ackerman and Ruan Fenton and Ruan Nokia. We'll only have Ruan Fenton, not Ruan Dreyers as well. There's a hell of a lot of
Ruan Kuan is an honorary Ruan.
So we'll just claim him.
Yeah,
it's close enough.
Stevie, just. While we're on the topic of a ban, there something I wanted to bring up quickly, that we've seen. I think it was in the France team. Hey, they've had both their tight head props banned for lengthy bans, who are basically effectively out of the Six Nations for red cards. Nothing about the players themselves, but I've recently I'm kind of applying my mind to: is it the right thing to ban players for 6 weeks and say that solved your problem? And I know obviously there are intervention measures that they have to shorten those ban periods, such as attending a what is it, tackle
Like a
conference
seminar,
or whatever
yeah.
you want to call it,
Yeah,
seminar, and they get a game shaved off or whatever. But I just what kind of, I mean, what does it serve anybody to have a player sent off? He knows within straight after he's done it that this is the wrong thing I've done. Sure, make him attend the seminar and he must pass it, lacquer, get him back into the field, because all you're doing is really punishing the public, and the viewership, the player himself, the team, and effectively kind of ruining a product for something that happened 6 weeks ago. Um, that's just my feeling. I think there should probably be something of an alternative, maybe a hit on match fees going forward for a number of games. But to ban someone outright, I think is just kind of losing appeal for me.
I don't know. I've always been. I've always because for example, like that kind of started teaching on the edge of the whole red card thing. You know, the 20-minute red card stuff like that. And I don't know. I kind of feel like surely as a player, I mean, for example, you get sent off during the World Cup, and you now miss the World Cup quarterfinal, semi-final, final. Surely that is psychologically far more impactful on you than having your match fee stopped. And I suppose isn't that the whole sort of point? To really sit there thinking, shit, I cannot run into a tackle recklessly. I cannot afford to let both my team down and myself down from a long term point of view. I don't know. It's difficult. Look, I mean, I think Mohamed Hawass shouldn't be playing rugby anyway. He's an absolute disaster of a human being, and the fact that he is playing just is pretty incredible. So he's probably a bad example because, as far as I'm concerned, he shouldn't be playing the game.
For me, it's a team sport, so you need to get banned, and it needs to hurt your team. If you hurt your team, that hurts more than anything. If you feel like you've let your team down, that should be the deterrent for banning. That's why I like a full red card instead of a 20-minute red card, because if you lose a game because you were banned, you feel guilty because your mates had to suffer on the field for 60 minutes and lose slowly, and that's your fault. And then getting banned for 6 weeks after that, that's a deterrent to stop you from losing match fees and all that kind of stuff. But no, I've always thought, like they started banning people for tip tackles. When was it? Like 2003, 4, and it worked. When last did we see that stuff? So I'm fully in, like, give them the ban hammer, try and change what's the name behavior that way. You have to be harsh because you're gonna kill someone if that Frenchman hit the who was it that he was, Ben White or someone that he got in the head.
I think it could have
been. You could crack a vertebrae doing that. You weigh 120 kgs and you throw yourself at a guy. That's very dangerous stuff to do. You can't be light on that.
He's just a thug, though. He is.
Yeah.
Just, I mean,
he's got a bit of a history.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys have probably convinced me there. I was just, my thought process was, sure, you punishing not only that, but a club as well, who are paying fees, salaries to a guy and so on, and then unable to use him. I guess there's a lot to think about as well from the investment point of view and the sponsors and so on, the people who want to see the game played as best it can be. But of course, safety comes first. I just wonder if maybe there's a better way of getting the message through. Right now, I agree that's probably the best thing to do is to ban them.
Do you know what? For me was quite an interesting angle, and that for me is almost sort of reaffirmed my sort of commitment to genuine red cards, and like, because people, that whole rugby's gone soft argument, even though like scientifically people are saying that people are being hit harder than ever before. People are bigger, fitter. It is more physical now than it has ever been. And I'm sorry, you go and watch rugby in like the 80s, and it's not the same game.
It's terrible.
Like it's and that's all just the glory days, and everybody just fantasizing how about thing, and nostalgia comes into it. But somebody was saying the other day that that the amount of juniors, the amount of parents who are not letting their children play rugby because they're worried of the effects of the injuries and the whole thing. For example, that big case happening in the UK about all the players getting dementia, and the immediate reaction from fans was, well, you knew what you were getting into, and people were like, No, we knew like we might get hurt, as in we might like break a few bones, we might be a bit sore, we might do a knee issue. We didn't realize we'd be like not remembering our kids' names at 42 years old. And I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
there needs to be. I think that for me was a very interesting angle in terms of if we want to have this game existing in 20 years, if we want parents going, sure, go play rugby, go forth and be free, and not have that sort of impending sort of feeling of doom surrounding their kids, then that's most important. And if it's a case of bans and red cards and dropping the tackle height, and if that's what we have to do to preserve the future of the sport, then I suppose then that's what we're always going to support.
yeah.
You know.
Unfortunately, that's just the thing you have to
Sure.
do. You have to change behavior somehow. Yeah.
I don't think it's an exact science, to be fair, because I think it works for some people, and some
Yeah.
people go meh, they don't care.
Yeah.
Um,
And even between levels, a professional athlete hits 10 times harder than a guy playing at the pub game
Yeah.
on the weekend. So there is a distinction between those levels as well. But the thing you see on TV is what most people pay for. You want it to be a good game, but you want it to exist as well.
yeah,
And the only way it will exist is if people want to play it because it's safe.
no, 100%. Right, chaps, we're gonna pretty much wrap it up there. It's been a fun chat actually. We speak quite a bit there. We've spoken about everything as well as bringing in the whole sort of the ban issue and a little bit onto the red card. So before we end though, one last thing I'd like to talk about. Snyman is back. He is on the bench for Munster tomorrow night and is set to make his return for the first time this season.
Crossing fingers, holding thumbs, he gets through a game. I think it's a 4G pitch as well, which is for a worst thing to start on.
Please, buddies, send me a little alarm reminder so I can see the 5 minutes that he's on.
Don't come here with that.
No, he just has to get through. And before we can even start talking about, well, is he going to go to the World Cup? I just want to see him back on the field and just get through a game. But it's now, but genuinely, if you talked about the World Cup, it's an interesting time perspective because we're now sitting in March, which means he does actually have time. I was sort of waiting to see him in end of April and have 3 club games, and then you sit there going, well, do we throw him into a box squad and then try and work up to form? At least now he will generally have 3 months of club rugby to try and get to playing at his best. Because I think there's no doubt, after Snyman refines his form, I think Rassie Rasmus drafting about will take him like that. They'll drop Marvin Ori at
Snyman, Ori or someone who's been working for 3 years now.
and the thing is that we know the Springbok coaches. They've told him. They've told Marvin, listen, if Archer comes back, you're gone, eh? Just understand that. You're here now, we appreciate it, but when he's back, you're out of here.
Yeah. But also shout out to Munster for looking after Archer.
Yeah, and I hope that, and that's what everybody's sort of saying, that they apparently he really wants to play well for them because they have invested so much in him, and he felt like he hasn't been able to give them anything.
Take him back,
but hopefully we could see him playing against, it was the Bulls or the Sharks in that last game. I think it could be the Bulls. One of the two are playing Munster in the last game, so hopefully we'll get to see him playing.
I think the Sharks. Yeah.
I think it is the Sharks. So hopefully this time next week we're talking about the return of Archer Snyman and how well it went. But thank you everybody for jumping in. We didn't get too many comments, stuff like that, but a couple of people were saying that, so for example, going back over here, Adam was saying it will be a hard decision for coaching staff to make on who will be starting Springbok number 8 for the World Cup knockout matches, 100%. Ludisto says Lisa should without a doubt be our starting 8 to the World Cup. And then he was saying that Visa's inconsistent. He reckons that Dwayne is inconsistent. I think there's many things I'd call Dwayne and inconsistent is probably not one of them. But each to their own. But that is what's happening this weekend, and we'll have previews out for all the games. I'll be live on YouTube on Saturday for both the Bulls game as well as the Sharks game, so come and join me then. And also for those of you who want to have a really, really good laugh, the Forever Sports crew will be doing a dry run of the Bahrain Grand Prix. We will be live at 9:15 in an hour's time. The Forever Sports crew is going to be racing around the streets of Bahrain. I will be a commentator for that as well. Reza's going to be racing in there. Mark's going to be involved as well as Reese, who are 2 motorsports guys. We're going to be bringing in Ross as well. He's taking a bit of break from golf to come and race, and it's just going to be an absolute hour of absolute chaos. So hopefully you can come and join us. That will be over on Forever Sports Extra. We will be putting a link in the community channel tab as well, so you can come and watch us and have a bit of a laugh. Chaps, have a good weekend and a good rest of the weekend. Or evening rather. And to everybody else, smash like on the way out, subscribe to the channel as well, and I'll see you guys all next time.